Aha! No intro this time. Well, didn't want to draw out this video any more than it already is. So as you may know, the Valkyr rework got announced, and not even as a Valkyr fan, my opinion was very mixed. And from all the forums I see, so are many others. So I decided to get working on my critique of these changes, which to be clear, yes, I understand this is work in progress, but I still feel things need to be said. So to get a better understanding of what the rework could entail, I decided to call upon a friend of the channel, Dystopia, and by accident had another friend of mine, Loading Error, join in on the discussion as well. To be clear, this isn't my critique vid, and purely a raw, unedited look at what we discussed surrounding the changes and how we feel, with some words to send off the conversation by Dystopia added to the end. So with that, I'll let it play, and unashamedly plug in my Discord, Patreon, and give special thanks to my Patreon members real quick, seeing as most people are unlikely to reach the end of this thing. And with that, on to the show. Dystopia, I have kidnapped you today because you and I both have some thoughts on the Valkyr changes. So, to begin, I am going to have you expel your deepest, darkest thoughts about the changes in this call.
The deepest, darkest thoughts. I'm gonna sound like I have some fucking deep, dark secrets. Honestly, it's nothing super special, but I'm just on the fence for the Valkyr changes. I love what the fuck they're doing with the 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. I hate what they're doing for her fourth ability, basically. Just completely getting rid of the invincibility. And a lot of people seem to be kind of on the fence on this in multiple regards of just like, oh my god, just play Revenant, or just play another frame that can be invincible and such like that.
Could you give me some specifics as to why you like and dislike these changes? Like, what are some very specific points that you can give?
So, I love what they're doing with the 1. Well, actually, I like what they're doing with the passive. They're changing it up to being something relatively useful, but...
It's a damage bonus, right?
It seems that it's probably just going to be like a pressure point bonus for the damage, from what I can tell, because they wouldn't make that multiplicative. But also, that's going to come into tie with how the fourth ability is going to be. I love what they're doing with the first ability, changing it into a grouping tool.
Well, it's still a mobility tool as well, right? It's a 2-in-1 now, correct?
Yeah, it's both for sure. But it's like I love that they changed it into a grouping tool, like a pretty good grouping tool at that.
Mm-hmm.
And it enables you to do a melee hit automatically to anything you grab into, kind of deal, and like that's great, phenomenal, great change. And then the war cry, I love what they're doing with the war cry, making it to where, you know, you can easily hit more teammates with it to give them the buff kind of deal. And if they get out of affinity range, the new range is going to be affinity range. If they get out of affinity range, they lose it, they can come back into the range and regain the buff. So there's no need to recast it for teammates or anything like that. So you can run Eternal War still. And they also increased the duration of it and all that, which is whatever. And they got rid of the slow, which is whatever. Nobody truly used it for the slow. And then they moved that into paralysis. This paralysis now slows, and paralysis now no longer costs shields for casting. Whoop, that's awesome. But now it costs 50 energy per cast, which is kind of an ouch. It has like just a flat base damage that it does as well. But you can still, you know, do finishers on fucking enemies, and you can still, you know, run the prolonged paralysis, but now it's supposedly going to be ragdolling enemies towards you instead of doing the slow go down kind of animation that they previously had. So I'm hoping you can still do ground finishers on groups of enemies that you're surrounded by. And then they also added in the fucking, you know, more damage for melee only. Extra multiplier for melee, which is nice. That's actually not a bad addition. And then they gave it the slow, so it's basically kind of just like an off-brand Gloom in essence. Yeah. And, you know, that's not terrible, not the best thing in the world, but whatever. And then the fourth ability, I fucking hate that they're getting rid of the invincibility on the fourth ability, which Valkyr has had for, what, 12 years now?
Since it released,
and there's been no issue with that invincibility, and then suddenly we're changing that invincibility, and to compensate for that, basically while you're in Hysteria, you get more, you get triple the armor value from your war cry, which, like, whoop-de-doo, that's not really going to do much.
Yeah.
And she gets more damage, which she didn't need more damage to begin with. She already deals enough damage.
Yeah, the slide attack, right? With the forward slash and stuff.
I mean, like, I like that they made the combos better, and they added more multipliers and actual stuff. I also hate how they changed the IP, the physical damage types on it. They should have just kept it an even split, because Valkyr Claws do not have status chance at all. So nobody really truly played around status chance for that stuff. It was like very niche builds maybe that did it, and now you kind of have a slight damage nerf because you don't have impact, so you're not even against every single faction in the game kind of deal.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, really quickly, can I interject on something?
What?
If the triple armor value does, you know, like, is able to be affected by the arcanes, you could run, I forget the name of it, but the one that boosts your energy.
I mean, that would max cap almost immediately.
Yeah, so if you have that mixed with, say, like, equilibrium, you could theoretically, I mean, already you can, but it would give another way to keep her for her others running.
That is a good point, but I'll get to that in a second, because there's there's so much to make note of here that's going to completely ruin Valkyr build-wise in so many different aspects because of that.
One of the ones I've seen that I sort of agree, but I also don't mind too much because I think it's fine to have certain archetypes, is how she's kind of pigeonholed into relying entirely on melee and specifically her four now, like more than it was before.
I mean, that's her point. She's an exalted weapon frame. It's like her one thing she had going for her compared to other exalted warframes is that she didn't die. She had low range. She didn't have the best grouping capability for her, but like she dealt damage to anything that was directly in front of her.
Yeah.
And now she's kind of becoming this weird warframe blend of Nidus, fucking can't even think of the Nidus Garuda with a, slight Baruch capabilities and whatnot, but being primarily armor. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Like, I'm sure Pablo, I see what Pablo's doing. He's trying to bring more of an active kind of play style for Valkyr, even though her playstyle was already active. You go around killing enemies to keep your energy up, because the energy was awful to maintain, but they actually gave kind of a buff with that. So scaling all the way up to like 15 energy per second, now it scales up all the way up to 10 energy per second, but it scales up still. That's another problem. The reason why it scaled up on the previous version is because you were invincible, so you're fighting an energy gauge. And yeah, now you're not fighting an energy gauge, so why does it still bring up, the energy amount?
The way
and then...
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, alright. So, the way I look at the rework is kind of like this from what I've seen. The one, honestly perfect, what they're doing with it. Honestly, one of the best ones in the game, in my opinion, now, because it's like a mobility tool and a grouping tool, which, for a melee frame, is integral. That's why I consider Melee Vortex one of the best arcanes, right? The two, I actually don't like they're getting rid of the slow, because it allowed for a light CC that could make it so it's easier for Valkyr to reach the enemies that she needed to kill, right? Because now they're not running all over the fucking place, they're now slowed down, rather than just running away from you and shit. Or running in the areas you don't want them to be. The 30 is interesting because I don't know if the melee damage, if it's like a damage vulnerability thing or just like a base damage increase. So I
think it's going to be damage vulnerability by how it's coded.
Yeah, and it looks interesting at least, but it's annoying that they moved over the slow from the 2 to the 3 because now it feels like it's like propping up the 3 when it should have its own thing, in my opinion. And then here is the biggest reason why I'm not a fan of the 4. And so for context, I personally don't even like Valkyr that much. This is more so how I look at her from a gameplay standpoint. It's that, like you mentioned, she is a melee frame that was completely restricted, right? Like, she was restricted to melee, so the invincibility made sense. The problem is that even with the grouping and the improved mobility, she is still going to have to contend with the fact that she is stuck in the melee. And more importantly, they got rid of an invincibility mechanic that was, first of all, unique to her, which is very important, or mostly unique to her anyway, in the way it worked, for a form of damage mitigation and scaling that simply just does not scale that well after a certain point.
Yep.
Because the invincibility made it so that even though she didn't have a crazy amount of damage, she was still able to scale. What's the thing? Like, she had the mechanics in place to allow for it. But with these changes, the problem that I have, and that from the sounds of it, you have too, is that because of this, because of, like, the extra stuff they're adding, it almost feels like the invincibility is being removed because they've added this other stuff instead.
Yeah.
And although it's great what we've gotten, it just means that at a certain point, maybe, I mean, not anytime soon, but maybe in the next year or two, maybe even 3, either they're going to have to completely change how health scaling works, and like armor scaling, which would be preferred, or they would have to rework her again, because they've pigeonholed her into a situation where, yes, she's stronger now, and she can better perform, and might even have better modding leeway, but she simply just can't do that kind of content anymore, which is content that we will eventually be able to reach, like normal.
Actually, that brings up another point I wanted to bring up more than anything else, is like how much damage reduction she's actually getting based on statistics and stuff. So I did a bit of research. Wow, I'm getting lucky with these fucking golds.
Yeah,
I'm doing a bit of research with well, I did a bit of research to see what everybody's opinions was and all that. You know, going on Reddit, YouTube comments, forum posts, everything. Like, I went everywhere. Everything is a fucking cesspool right now. But the main thing that I kind of grabbed off of people that were talking about the changes and all that stuff were mainly from Valkyr mains. And one made an incredible point that I kind of wanted to evolve the point a little bit more, was that if you get all the Umbra mods and Blind Rage on Valkyr, and you're in Hysteria and you have Warcry active, you have almost, like, you're close to 6,000 armor. That, I don't know the exact number, but that's like basically 95% damage resistance.
It is.
And that's just armor. That's just from armor. And, you know, the guy was praising that. It's just like, oh, Pablo, I see what you're doing. This is amazing. Great job. And then I'm thinking to myself... Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, it's just like, okay, so what happens when you're in Deviri fighting level 1,000 enemies that deal 10,000 damage a bullet? Suddenly 3 hits, you're dead because they each deal 500 damage to you.
Yep.
And that's like, that's just having maybe 3 enemies shoot at you once. Like, you're going to die, basically. And it feels bad because the passive also has an additional thing where it, you know, you get up to plus 300% additional melee damage, and you do that by meleeing enemies, getting finisher kills, mercy kills, that kind of deal. And once you die, it takes 75% of that gauge. So it takes 225% of that gauge to be able to give you 3 seconds of invulnerability.
Yeah.
And then you have to beat that back up, basically. 3 seconds is not long enough for Valkyr.
It depends on the situation, obviously, because it is possible under very, specific circumstances, right? But the problem is trying to judge things by specific circumstances doesn't work because it's specific circumstances, right?
Yep.
And that's
like the thing is, as common is just like, oh my god, this calculations with, Umbral and Blind Rage and all that stuff, is like, that's potentially 2 Umbral Forma being dumped into Valkyr to be able to get to that level of armor. And that also dedicates automatically 4 mod slots for you. That also means that potentially you have less mod slots to be able to give you stuff that you need, because you need efficiency. Blind Rage is going to tank that.
Yep.
So you're not going to be in Hysteria as long as you want to be.
And more importantly, that's assuming that the armor multiplier is a multiplicative multiplier with your total armor and the base armor, and that gets added to whatever the Umbral mods give you too.
Yeah, exactly. So it couldn't even be 95% damage reduction. It could actually be 85% or like 90% damage reduction, which is far worse, because armor scales worse the more you have.
Yeah. Like, it's diminishing returns is the problem with armor.
And then you got to worry about energy economy as well, and that's like potentially 2 to 3 mod slots or arcanes, depending on how you want to go.
Yeah.
It just keeps adding on and on, because it's like, out of the cost to build the Valkyr currently right now, for a nice, simple, easy build, is hell of a lot less than it's going to be if these changes come out.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Because it's like, my immediate thought, right, wasn't just the health type changes part, right, with like the, with the armor scaling, but it was also kind of like, if you're making Valkyr reliant on armor now, it means that now you have to have the mod capacity, or think about modding for armor and health now. And like, yes, health conversion and things like that exists, and I understand why they exist, but it just won't be enough if the damage that you're taking is that much at that kind of content.
And like, a lot, there's some people that it's just, you can go into level cap and, have enough damage reduction and all this stuff. Not everybody plays fucking level cap. Hell, I don't play level cap all the time.
I barely do, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, most of the time I'm fighting enemies that are this, level 200 or whatever and like that. And it's just like, playing Excalibur at this level, if you don't have like 15 umpteen things trying to keep you alive at the same time, you're gonna die. So Valkyr's just gonna be in the same foothold at that point.
She probably will be, and like, this also brings up the other point of like, something that's gonna go into the video, right? Is I like to talk about frames, and by the video I'm talking about not just this one, but like the modding video that I'm working on, right? Is that the frames that I consider to be perfect are the ones that have the mechanics in place that allow them to scale, right? And like, we can shit on Valkyr's kit, like her current kit, all we want. Like, hell, even I think it's kind of poor at times, despite what I've seen in your video, which, by the way, good video. Once again,
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's like, the thing is, even with that, she still has the ability to scale. And that's what I consider a good frame to be, barring the kit problems and the anti-synergistic design of her 3.
Yep.
But, the problem is with this one, like, yes, she's gonna have a more synergized kit now, but now she doesn't have the stuff in play that allows her to scale that well at all, barring the health gate mechanic that she has, which isn't a full... Because, like, when I read that, I thought it was gonna be like, when you get above that point, you become invincible, and then as it drains, you just have to keep it up, you know what I mean, right? But no,
honestly,
it's like
that sounds hell of a lot better, honestly.
Like, if it was that, I think it would be perfectly fine, because then it's like you have to work for the mechanic, right? Like,
it's also rewarding the gameplay loop that you should be playing.
But now, she has to rely on health tanking and get enough hits to be able to, like, keep herself from dying, which won't work when the enemies can one-shot you after a certain point, even with that kind of armor. And even with so many other mechanics in play, like, maybe get 2-shot.
There's also another thing as well, is that they changed the healing from the claws from being percentage-based to being a single-digit base, basically.
Oh, that was dumb when I saw that too.
It's like 5% down to like 50 health on hit, and it scales with power strength. That means, typically, the power strength that you want on Valkyr is, between 200 and 250% and all that stuff. You're, on average, getting 100 to 125 health per hit.
Yeah.
That's, like, no.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's not enough to sustain you in a very broad spectrum.
mean, yes, with grouping it would work, but like you
in
probably
grouping
won't be
it
alive
would
to be
work,
able to group.
but it's like it would have made more sense for health on hit, like a number of that whenever you're invincible, and then percentage when you're not.
Yeah.
Because now the gameplay's it's forcing you to basically do one of two things: either you're running gloom so that you can stay alive, because that has a proper percentage lifesteal and can keep you alive, and oh god, I'm just so disappointed. Like,
Yeah, me too,
I know it's still like the changes are to come. It's not final. There's still a lot of stuff to come, but it's like,
yeah, that has to be said. That these are like planned changes. These may not even go. Some of these may not even go through. But I still think it's important to get these kinds of concerns out of the way. Even.
But it's like they could, so many different things could have been done. It's like, you know, she has so much armor, but she has no way of properly using the armor. So let's get rid of the invincibility so that she's forced to use the armor. And it's like, that's backwards thinking more than anything else. Just give her Hysteria, something that scales damage or attack speed or something with armor.
That could be
or
great.
Just, you know, we have I can't remember what frame came out, has a unique scaling mechanic with a specific stat. But that was like, oh my god, that's genius. Like tying the damage or something like that to duration.
Would that technically be what's his name, Dante with status duration?
I don't think it's Dante. I don't know. I'm gonna use Gauss as an example because you build duration on him for more damage and DPS.
Yeah. Also, what did you want to say, loading error?
I said I don't know why I thought Calervo for whatever reason.
It's okay. We're kind of just
brainstorming
at this point. Yeah, that's just like, I don't know, I just looked at the changes and I'm just like, my biggest concern, because like I said, I don't really care much about Valkyr, it's more so like this way of thinking and what Limbo might eventually get, you know what I mean? If this is the kind of thinking they're going with. Because like, the thing that makes Limbo tick, right, when it comes to his kit is stasis. I would say, like, it's probably his most important ability. Like, without stasis, Limbo would literally not be able to function, and it cannot be changed in its current state. Kind of similar to how Valkyr's invincibility, people don't like to say it's what defines your kit, but in a way it does, because it was the one thing that allowed her to scale.
Yeah, and also allowed freedom of builds and everything like that. You're not forced.
It gave you way more leeway in regards to modding, and now you actually have to worry about
interject really quickly?
Yeah.
So, Limbo Rework, right? He sometimes, I'm not saying all the times, can struggle with the Xmas unit. So, as the Rework, Limbo will now have a 200 health boost when he is not inside his rift. There we go. He's fixed.
That would not help. That would not help.
I've single-handedly fixed it. In fact, actually, he starts dying in the rift because some people spend too long in there.
Honestly,
enemies that are banished, they get health boosts.
Would be neat. Enemies have health boosts. Wow.
Actually, also rewatched the Pablo's video talking about the Valkyr changes and stuff like that, and there's two key things that like kind of irked me when he was talking about the 4.
Yeah.
One thing he said is that like when people run out of energy, they go and hide in the corner waiting for their energy to come back as Valkyr. I do not know a single fucking person that has played Valkyr that does that.
Yeah,
I did it once, and that was because she was like level 15 and I had 0 energy. It was in a horrible position when leveling up.
Like, probably starting off very beginning of the game, like, that might be your scaredy cat tactic or something like that, but that's a learning point to figure out how you can manage Valkyr's energy management better.
Yeah.
Back when I was a new player, I would, like for the junctions, I ran Vectis and Vol, so I would sit there with Energy Siphon for like 10 minutes to just get my full energy, pop a Volt Shield, and then just shoot the guy. That was how I was getting through them. Is it scummy? Yes, but looking back on it, that was a horrible waste of time.
Oh yeah.
And another
But also,
another
you
thing
start
that got
learning.
me as well is if you watch the video whenever he's fighting enemies and such, and you know he's talking about the healing being on hit now and such, and you can see on his buff bar he's running Arcane Grace.
Oh.
You can see that like he's built around the fact that the claw healing is not enough.
Interesting.
And then he also mentioned as well, whenever he was talking about the third ability, is that, you know, now it can be used as something for shield gating, and that was a warning for the fourth ability, you know, him starting to state that it's no longer making you invincible. It's just like, now you have access to shield gating while you're in your fourth ability. Yeah, on a fucking 10 second, or 10 per second energy drain ability, that you're forcing people to use an ability that costs 50 energy to shield gate on a frame that you said should be using its armor more. Do you hear yourself, Pablo?
You know what's funny? That was like the backwards way of thinking that I was looking at it like this, of the, that I was talking, I think it was actually with one of my Discord members, Darku, actually. I remember that you met him before, right, Dystopia? When we did
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about something, I don't remember what it was, I might have to find the conversation, but I remembered him, it was something about energy tanking, right? And although I kind of agree that is an option, it kind of defeats the whole purpose, at least in my opinion, of why the 4 gives armor in the first place at that point. Or like the increased health and stuff. Because like it's still, at least in my opinion, at least it still won't scale, at least with the tools that I know of, unless it's like some obscure thing that I'm not aware of going on.
Actually, I'm intrigued on that. I might go look at that.
Like, I've used to do it before, and it wasn't too bad. It's just that even with, like, some stuff, I just wasn't able to get it to scale that well unless I was missing something. But, like, it's kind of like that, where, like, it just feels like, as you mentioned before with, like, the Grace and the Shield Gate stuff, is that it kind of defeats the purpose of having some of that stuff in the 4 in the first place. Why not keep it as an invincibility ability at that point? That way you don't have to worry about those things.
I think if, like, man, I'm hoping that the new passive doesn't stay to, like, you know, just more melee damage. I'm hoping he changes it to something to where it's, like, damage reduction based on how much you're hitting enemies. So then you're rewarded to be continuously in combat at that point.
Yeah, that would work too.
But then, even if you have it like that, you know, you get your passive proc or whatever, you lose that damage reduction, you're then a dead fish in water kind of deal.
I do hope they still, like, for whatever reason, keep her passive, like, as it is right now, just add that to it. Just because I really liked it. It was useless, but I just like the neat little thing to it.
I mean, I'm hoping that they change the numbers. It's just like costing 75% of your meter and 3 seconds of invulnerability is not long enough for you to go around and like restack up that meter again, because Valkyr kind of just one-shots everything. So like, you're just getting one tiny bit of meter for each singular enemy you're hitting.
Yeah, that too.
And then if you're not in combat, if you watch the video as well, you'll notice that the loss of meter is like basically almost immediate.
It's very fast, and the amount that you get is very low too, from what I saw.
It's like, you know, we'd have to play with it, see how it is, you know, see if she's turned into a finisher frame at this point. Because the dev build does say that finishers and mercy kills give more meter. So it's like changing her from becoming a berserker to becoming an executioner. It's like, I don't think that was your goal. I don't think that was the intended equation right there.
I know it was. I was actually just talking about this, like, I think like not even 20 minutes ago, longer than that ago with Darku again, because I'm going to bring him up again, because he's a great insider when it comes to talking about this kind of stuff, in my opinion. Is that, as he puts it, the problem with DE, when it comes, especially when it comes to Pablo, when it comes to design, as far as I can tell, they can get the thematic stuff right, but it's mainly the gameplay stuff that seems to be off when it comes to all other stuff. Because visually, Valkyr does look like a berserker frame, right? With like all the abilities. But from what you just said, like with the finishers giving extra stuff, it seems to give off more of like an executioner or finisher frame kind of vibe instead.
Yeah.
Because you're more rewarded for that than you are for other things.
It's just, I don't know. If it turns out to become that point, it's like, that kind of sucks, honestly. Because whenever I play Valkyr in the current form, right, it's like the invincibility's there. That gives my mind, like, some leeway, basically. It allows me to relax a little bit, because so long as I'm, you know, not taking 5 minutes standing still or anything like that, and I'm just running around, killing people, doing the thing that I'm supposed to do, then I'll stay active and I'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Like, it's a safety net. In the
and for the new setup, you have a safety net that lasts once, and then you're stressing your nuts off trying to get that safety net back.
Yeah, like, what is it that I'm thinking of? Like, the problem, it's a similar problem to what I had with the Hydroid rework, actually, when they did that. Like, even, like, I hadn't even played him at that point. Like, I'll admit that in this call. But I have seen the kit, and I kind of understand what they were going for. It was like a chill in the deep waters and drag enemies down to their death kind of theme, right? With the with the gameplay. And that's what made the puddle so good, is that yes, you could still play as like a CC Gunzerker frame, but you had the puddle as like a safety net, like with Valkyr's 4. But now that that's gone, you have to rely entirely on Plunder for survivability, which has the same problems that Valkyr's new thing has with the armor. Because
and ironically enough,
the armor just does not scale.
Yeah, and ironically enough, the best fucking survival for him, one of my fucking good friends who mains Hydroid, shield gates.
Yep. Like, I think, in all honesty, that back to what we talked about, what I said earlier about, like, changing health tanking and stuff, I feel like that should be what they should be more focused on right now when it comes to that kind of stuff, instead of giving enemies health and armor for scaling. Because it just doesn't scale. Like, that's the problem. Yeah. It just does not scale that well at all. Like, unless you can get away with it, like, with Trinity, with her ability to stack DR multipliers, or Nidus, who has the passive of the stacks. If your frame relies on health tanking, they're just not going to be able to scale. Which, right now, isn't that much of a problem. But it will become one. And I got downed by Mania, because I fucking hate this guy. You kidding me?
Don't worry, I got him.
Thank you. If people keep telling me that Violence is worse than Mania, not I. At least I can actually hit. At least I can actually hit Violence.
With Mania, it's like you gotta time it more than anything else.
You have to wait it out, basically.
If you don't insta-give him, yeah. Or Bailey, which, unironically, Valkyr could fucking deal with Mania.
Well, the problem is that Mania ragdolls you if you get too close, even with, like, anti-knockdown stuff, so it's like you get insta-killed, basically, because you get...
No, Valkyr's invincible. She doesn't give a shit.
Well, she won't in due time.
Oh, yeah, she will now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Fucking, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I like a lot of aspects that are coming with it, right?
Yeah.
I love the changes. I love the new life that they're giving it. But there was another post that I was reading from another Valkyr main that was talking about the changes and saying it's like he likes a lot of them that are coming and such. But when you look at it, you know, from a different perspective, nothing fundamentally truly changes off of Valkyr's gameplay with these new changes. And they basically just nerfed the 4.
They did. They basically just nerfed the 4.
And he went into full detail with everything and all that stuff. Like it was a good read.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, in the end, all these changes and stuff is just like she didn't need to be hit with that hammer for absolutely no reason.
Yes, it's like I've talked to Cool Kid about this a little bit too. Like I mentioned this to him in his Discord. My biggest fear, and this kind of goes back to a potential for a Limbo rework again, and for honestly all reworks going forward, is that they're going to change stuff that doesn't need to be changed. Like stuff that's just unnecessary to get rid of, and if anything, might ruin the frame a little bit. May it be thematically, may it be gameplay-wise, may it be just something in the kit. And I get it. Like, I understand trying to change things, because, like, anything good, as we know in life, everything that is amazing or good comes with some kind of sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, what is being sacrificed here in the name of like balance and like making a better kit, although will work for now, just won't work after a time.
Especially for the sheer amount of resources you're gonna have to invest into her now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Ridiculous.
I don't know. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said previously, it's like everything is down for change. I'm hoping Pablo is seeing the reaction, because it's like, while a lot of people are just like, oh, cry a river, go play Revenant, blah blah blah, that kind of deal. It's just like, no, you're kind of missing the point. Sorry, Blueprint, love your content, but you definitely missed the point on that one.
He did. Like, I've actually tried talking to him for this video, and he didn't get back to me. So we'll see what happens with that.
It's like, you know, you have a good point in your stance and all that stuff, but we've had Valkyr like that for years. Years. The invincibility was not a problem. It was something people had to play around because it was the answer. It was the key to get the Berserker going. Play around the 4. Now it's just like, maybe play around the 4. You don't live anymore, you know, if you're in level cap, so if you want to do that, you're forced to constantly be on your toes trying to find the biggest group of enemies and kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't feel good. I like playing Warframe in a way to where I can kind of just like, you know, take a couple seconds to breathe, look at the situation, and do whatever. And Valkyr was like 100% that. She was very chill and very powerful, and then whenever you needed to get shit done, she got shit done. She killed anything that was in front of her.
Yep. And she will be able to kill, but now she just won't be able to go very far anymore. It's like, how should I put it? It's like having... Oh my god, what would be the best way of putting it? Oh my god. I can't come up with something.
Oh, is he on you? He's on you.
Yeah, he's on... Oh, the misery!
Oh, the misery. Get orange kit. Little flesh head orb loser. Oh, it's the boss version.
He's summoning the boys. He's summoning the boys. There he goes.
There you go. All the boys are dead.
You're in my dimension now, boys.
Yeah, no. I mean, as nice as the heirloom skin is, I 100% think that they're going to make a mistake if they implement those changes.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's better options. There has to be a better option.
Yeah. Even if, like, even though it would cause no effect, her forgiving armor, even with invincibility, would be really nice. Even if it was like a diminishing result. So when you do come out, it will slowly drop down.
Yeah.
Dumb idea, but that would help her energy economy if you brought it.
Actually, speaking of that stuff, there was somebody that had a reply on one of the posts that was actually completely genius. You keep the invincibility, but you make it to where the energy drain is also health draining you.
Yeah, I've seen that. I saw that. I like that idea, actually.
That is smart.
And so once you reach at, like, you know, the 2 energy benchmark or whatever, it's like, let's say the energy cost then triples for Hysteria, and then you're just like, you're struggling, you know, trying to find an enemy to hit just so that you can have health to rebalance everything kind of deal. And then that, like, that makes it less stressful because all you need to do is hit an enemy, and then it makes the fucking health, you know, on hit changes a little bit better, make more sense rather than being percentage based. There's so many options.
I feel like there could have been way better ways of doing these changes than what we got.
Yeah.
Or what we're getting, rather. And like you mentioned before, we kind of have to see when we get our hands on them, but at least from what we're seeing, I don't really have a whole lot of hope for her.
Yeah, it's like I'm already thinking in my mind, you know, builds that I need to go and all that stuff, and it's just, it's either you're going shield gating or you're going health tanking now, and, you know, going shield gating on a frame that has never been shield gating before and has a high energy drain ability, even though it has been, you know, buffed to the point to where it's 10 energy per second, you still have to manage that. Your paralysis now costs 50 energy to cast instead of 5. So your grouping tool, your previous, you know, slow finisher grouping tool has now been completely nerfed, basically. And now you have to watch out how much energy you're spending on that.
Yeah, this, I'm just gonna say it, these changes look like a clusterfuck to me.
It's like, I don't know, like, everything else sound amazing, everything else sound great, and then, you know, you're no longer invincible in your 4. It's like, I sure hope you have a contingency plan for that.
The minute you said, I know this may sound scary at the start, you knew it was over.
She's just gonna die when we eventually get to that higher level content where it starts to matter more consistently.
She's basically just gonna be, you know, quick mission frame kind of deal. If you're in a survival for like an hour, you'll start struggling pretty badly if you're just relying on your armor, because now you're forced to have adaptation.
Yeah.
Because you need another thing that's giving you defense multipliers. Because on the build, you're basically going to be forced to run something that's flow, something that's giving you energy efficiency, something that's giving you duration for a little bit better energy efficiency on your Hysteria. You also need something with health, something with armor, adaptation potentially, and it's just, it's such a mess. That's like 5 to 7 mods needed on your build, so then you have no freedom for what you want to go for.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know how I've described the modding for Warframe as like cooking, and then what the modding is baking?
Mm-hmm.
I think with these changes, and if this is like the way that Pablo is going to keep going forward, it's going to make it so that all Warframes are going to be like baking eventually.
Like, sometimes a frame doesn't need to be touched.
I'm not saying she didn't need to be touched. I did think that the 3 specifically needed to be completely changed, like overhauled it completely, because it was anti-synergistic with their kit. But there's there's just some things that just don't need to be touched, kind of thing. And that, in my opinion, was one of them. Even though I don't even play her, I can just tell from the get-go that, yeah, that was the thing for her, like one of the things for her, kind of thing.
I'm curious how the fucking stream chats and all that were, because the forums were blowing up. They were like, nah, dude, what the hell are you doing?
Honestly,
you know what's really funny?
One of the things really I'm trying to do is try to find the Gaz clip where he was crashing out over the slam nerfs after he saw it. I think he might have scrubbed it from the internet, though, because a friend of mine, Aku, in the Discord, he was like, hey, where's the clip? I'm trying to find it. I'm like, I don't know, it should be there. And he says, I can't find the stream.
You know, what's really funny is that, like, it's not even a slam nerf, it's just you can just now do style points for more range.
Yeah.
Like, boohoo, you can't spam it as much as you wanted to previously. Ironically enough, you probably could still spam it. You just have to, like, it's just a hard focus on whatever you're looking at kind of deal.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really funny, though, is, somebody said, it's like, you know, if they do this to Valkyr, I'm moving to Nyx and running Assimilate with Warcry.
Yep, I've seen that too.
Like,
basically, it literally
Nyx,
is.
Nyx gets to be invincible. Revenant gets to be invincible. It's like, I'm sure there's
back from the dead super easily as well. I wouldn't say invincible, but
I would say it's different
if you build
though,
it right.
in the case of like Revenant specifically though. Like I know hoo haha meta invincibility shit. I don't mind that he's invincible, because that's like the thing that he does kind of thing, right? And even then, it's not so much invincibility as it is charges that allow you to ignore damage, is what it would be more close to.
Yeah, his charges, Wukong is, you know, you're invincible for a select period of time.
Yeah.
I have hope. I have hope that these changes are gonna be good, that he's going to change the numbers more than anything else. Because Pablo does listen to the people. Okay, so to everyone that's like having a knee-jerk reaction of this conversation and saying it's like, oh my god, boohoo, invincibility gone, go play Revenant, that kind of deal, it's like, you're genuinely missing the point. I've been playing this game since September 2014. Valkyr carried me a major fucking portion. And yeah, she was invincible during that time, and she was invincible the whole time, but I never played her all the time. It's just, it was something that was a core part of her, and now it's just an afterthought and being brushed off like it's nothing. And with how the game is right now, with damage scaling and health tanking and armor tanking not being the best options, well, I lived in an era where that was a thing. It's not really a thing anymore. Like, you can make builds for it, but that's like real casual setup builds. If you want to do cascade runs with Valkyr now, you're going to have a struggle. That's honestly the truth. I'm sorry. It's just not going to be enjoyable playing a armor berserker go in and kill everything frame as a shield gate frame. That's my consensus. So I'm hopeful for the changes. I'm hopeful Pablo will do something, and I will accept them whether they are as they are right now or if they get changed into something else, and I will try and work with them because I like Valkyr, and I will do my best to try and make her capable of playing the game.
I think that's some pretty wise words.